I'm Phil DiCollegiero, I'm the Executive Director of the Amesbury Chamber of Commerce, and I want to say thank you to the team from Amesbury High School, because I know that we hear a lot of times in the business and nonprofit community about how they would like to involve and engage more students, and either as employees or interns, they don't always know where to start, or they feel like they're recreating the wheel every year. So this year we're lucky because we have Carrie Cohen and Danielle Ritchie here from Amesbury High School. Carrie is a guidance counselor and work study coordinator, while Danielle Ritchie is the principal at Amesbury High. So we have some folks here from the Amesbury Chamber of Commerce, just to help drive the conversation and ask some questions. But otherwise, I would love to hand over. I guess I should respect the reins and hand it over to Principal Ritchie and say welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, and thanks for those that are here and whoever is going to watch this moving forward. So I'm going to let Carrie do the bulk of the presenting here and pop it as needed, but she is really the expert in this area. I'd like to just preface her presentation by talking about what I see as a real goal for Amesbury High School under my leadership, and that is to break down the walls of our building. That is to get students out into our community, to be engaged, and to have as many real world opportunities as possible, particularly students in their junior and senior year as they look to become adults in our community. They will be filling these roles and doing this work. And so as opposed to just sitting in a classroom, let's get them out, let's get them active, let's get them engaged and prepared to be valuable contributing citizens in our community. So for me, that looks like getting our students out. That looks like community members coming into our building, presenting, being part of workshops, our career fair days, and lots of different events that we have started over the past few years. So the focus of today's presentation is around our internship program, and that's primarily, as Carrie will tell you, geared toward seniors currently, seniors who have completed the majority of their graduation requirements and are looking to have an off-campus opportunity in the spring of their senior year. So that's what we're going to talk most about today, but I'm also happy to talk about any other ways to continue to establish community relationships with our high school students. So I'll kick it over to Carrie and hop in as needed, but she's pretty good at this.
Sure. So hi everyone, I'm Carrie Cohen, and I'm a guidance counselor here at the high school. I also am the work study coordinator, which means I kind of just wear a lot of hats in terms of students heading outside of our building and doing work within the community, whether that's interning or actually working. So one thing that I do is I work really closely with the PASS program. So while we have a couple other options for students in terms of internships and ones that we're definitely hoping to expand upon in the future, we're just going to really focus on PASS today, because there's a couple really exciting things coming up that we want the chamber to be a part of if possible. So when we say PASS, that stands for Plan for Alternate Spring Semester. And this is really for our really determined seniors. So seniors that have met all of their graduation requirements. They go through a rigorous process where they're able to have a shortened day in the second semester. So most of the students will have periods 1 through 4. So they're going to get out of school around noon every day. During this time, they have some options. They can either take a college class, they can work, or they can do an internship. So I'll go more into details of like when they can work and how much and that sort of thing, but those are really the options. What we were finding is some kids do college classes, but the bulk of the students were working, and which is great. They're just keeping their same job that they've had after school for a while. But we're really hoping to give students an opportunity to get some hands-on real life experience in a career field of interest. So I think we're kind of trying to branch out to community partners so that we can build positive relationships within the community, help students build positive adult relationships, which we know is really important to have a mentor within the community, and just kind of broaden our options for student internships in hopes that more students will take that on as well. So in terms of senior pass, how it works is students either take a class, work, or do an internship, and that is 10 hours a week. These 10 hours can be really whenever, as long as it's not during that 4 blocks of time. So it can be during the weekday after school, it could be on weeknights if you need a few hours there, or it can be on the weekend. It's really unique to the individual and to the business that they're working with. You can craft your own schedule with the student to make that work. And, if 1 week it's 8 hours and the next week it's 12, that's totally fine. We're really flexible and we want students to be able to work with the business and work around their needs and your needs too. So that's sort of how the schedule works. It starts in the second semester for students. So it's around January to May that they're required to do these 10 hours. And these are unpaid internships. And I know sometimes people feel really uncomfortable. Oh, they're doing all this work and they're not getting paid, but they are getting credit to do your internship and help you out. So we are providing the credit for that. So that takes all the payment off the table. I mean, at the end of the internship, if you want to celebrate them or get them a gift card or something like that, that's completely optional. And I know sometimes people feel like they need to do those things, but it's absolutely unpaid and students will be getting credit for it. And they walk away with a really great experience. Sometimes, if the student might ask you for like a letter of recommendation if they've had a really good experience, that sort of thing. So that's really the expectation around payment stuff.
Terry, if a business or nonprofit wanted to pay them because they just feel that they feel that obligation, or that's how they are, are they allowed to get paid?
That's a good question. I would actually have to do a little bit more research into like Massachusetts regulations around that, given that it's an internship that they're getting credit for. So we could absolutely have those conversations with individual businesses. If a business is willing to take on an intern and we have an intern who wants to participate, we're going to do whatever we can to make it work. So we can definitely have those individual conversations.
Even that answer,
I believe, yeah.
that answer even kind of answers it, because we have a very generous business community in Amesbury, especially, and I feel like they're always like, yeah, but we still want to go over and above. So I guess this is a helpful reminder that it's not typical that is happening, and there shouldn't be that sense of obligation that you need to pay precisely because of the nature of this program. So this really is a free opportunity financially, but one where, again, they're getting credit at school as long as the business owner is willing to give them time and some structure.
Yeah. And at the bottom, I wrote, it's also, if you have an open position where you are looking for work, then we absolutely have students who are working during this time. So that can be a conversation too. If it is a placement for work, then it's just a little bit of a shift in terms of paperwork, but it's really not much different. So we can definitely have individual conversations with students and with businesses around how that looks. And I would be the go-to person for that. So anyone can reach out to me with those specific questions, and I give my contact at the end. A good question.
I'd also add that it's a really great resume builder for our students. So that, credit is great, but for a student, we've had students that have internshipped at Anna Jake's, for example, and they're interested in the medical field. And just so to say they've had that hands-on experience in an area of interest is huge for them in that kind of way. So to have that on their resume with you as a reference is also really valuable to them too.
So as a supervisor for an internship, some of the overall things that we're looking for is to provide students with meaningful and relevant hands-on work experience. And we know from field to field, hands-on is going to have sort of a different meaning. Some of it, if they were at Anna Jake's, they would probably be watching a lot more than doing, I would hope, in terms of working with clients. But if you wanted them to work on social media, they may actually be the person doing that work. So we're really just hoping for a meaningful experience where they can get some experience in the field of interest, to promote a healthy working environment with open communication between the student and both myself at the high school level. We want you to hold students to high standards. These are seniors. There are seniors who, have worked really hard to be here. So definitely holding them to high standards is something we want you to do. Help them to develop their career readiness skills. When you think of, getting to work on time, communicating with if they are, running late or something like that, we really want to build those career readiness skills, to build positive relationships with students and to be a mentor in your field. So I think Danielle touched upon that, even like with being a reference or just, giving them some insight into what that field is like. Students don't really know about jobs in their industry until they've kind of had that experience or worked with someone who can tell them a little bit more. In terms of like the exciting paperwork, there's really just a few pieces of paper we would have to have you sign. It's just sort of a signature saying that the student is doing the internship there. And then we would have 2 check-in meetings with both myself, the business owner, and the student to just check in to make sure that they're completing all their hours and things are going all right.
I would also add that if you're in a bigger business, you don't necessarily have to be the direct supervisor to this person. If you have someone that's more appropriate to hand that off to, but you still want to be a part of this process, put that person in contact with us on your behalf, and that's more than okay as well. We just need someone that's going to be able to do the logistical paperwork meeting part of it, and it does not have to be you. It can be your designee.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, this may be silly, but do you offer some additional structural guidance for, especially like our small businesses, or I guess maybe my first question should be, can nonprofits also utilize this? Like volunteer run nonprofits, like we have Tough Warrior Princesses and Cadence Crusaders that do a lot in the community, but they don't have any staff. Is that an option? Because that will kind of feed in actually to my next question.
I think so. I think they could, if that type of organization was looking to bring on one of our students, and we definitely have students interested in nonprofit, social justice, that sort of thing. I think that
the cultural council, for instance, too, like that, they do a lot, but they're all volunteer run.
Yeah, sometimes I think what makes sense in agencies like that, and I'm trying to remember where we had a student previously, but it was a nonprofit, and the internship experience was something, there was a specific project that the student was asked to take on. So it wasn't like they're showing up to complete a task during those hours. They were working one-on-one with the person to prepare for a specific event or something along those lines. So the nature of the work might be a little bit different. It might not be you're at the office or showing up in the store or at the hospital, but that you've been tasked to help execute this project. That may be what that looks like in a nonprofit too.
Okay. So the reason why I ask is, so we are, as a chamber specifically, we have staff. I work for the chamber full time. But in past years, I know that, Danielle, you and I have talked about having an intern placed here, and I've always been intimidated because I feel like it's a challenge to organize life for myself, and that there's a healthy amount of guilt that if I had a student here, I would want to make it as fulfilling as possible for them. I mean, I want them to get as much value. I mean, I'd love to get value out of them, but I very much believe that they should get value as well. And we have more structure here, and so I'm excited actually, because I'd like to have 1 or 2 interns placed this spring here at our office. But for like those business owners, that shop owner where they're solo, they don't even have employees, do you have any type of like crash course or guidance you can provide them of how to create or identify how to build a fulfilling opportunity for a student in the past program that may want to be placed with them?
I think the first thing would be determine like where you see there's a need, like where do you need support and where do you think it would benefit you? I think if a business owner or a small business, any place really had that sort of thing, then we could work together to kind of map out what works best, because it might depend on the student that they get too, but I've definitely run internships in the past where it's absolutely their first time taking on an intern. And I think while we don't have sort of like a handbook or anything like that, I think part of my job is to help with that bridge. So I'm happy to work specifically with people looking to take on an intern to kind of help them map out what makes the most sense for them and how to best utilize students' time. Because we can be really, really flexible. I mean, in the world we live in now, so many people work from home. So students I was talking to an internship the other day. She says they meet up at the library for an hour and then the students are really doing the work on their own time, which for a lot of students makes sense. So it's definitely going to be unique for each company and what they need. And I'm happy to sort of bridge that gap if they're looking for some structure and how to run it.
And I would say it's okay that some of this might be task work for them too, as long as there's a healthy balance. Let's say you on Monday just really need envelopes stuffed and ready to go for your mailing, but then you're able to allow them to shadow a breakfast or a lunch like this where they get to see some of this kind of work. I think it is a balance of your needs plus the exposure and some depth of experience for students. And that might be the reality of some entry level positioning that they may be part of out of college anyway. So we want to make sure that those needs are being met. I would add that part of Carrie's role in our guidance department is to work with you to help place the right students in the right places. So when you're able to share what your need is with us, we might be able to look at our pool of students and say, you know what, I really think so-and-so is going to be the one that will be the best fit here. They have, you're describing that you need someone with a lot of initiative that may have ideas, that maybe is interested in business. this is the person that I'd love to connect you with. So we can help in that handoff sort of way as well.
So you play matchmaker. So it's not just like, oh, we're gonna pull a name out of the hat and that business gets that student, and I need help with social media, but you just gave me someone who still has a flip phone, like things like that. Like, so that's great.
Yeah. And we collected interests from students to figure out sort of what areas that they wanted to do internships. And so that's something that I've been communicating with PACT through their outreach, and that I'll share today with you too, so that you can see there's so many areas of interest that students can support the chamber in.
Don't you really need a job description though? So it isn't depending upon people's memory of an interaction, secondhand communication, that type of thing. I know from a small business standpoint, businesses are like a free-for-all to an extent. Every day is different. It's whatever comes up and so forth. But I would only do this if I had the structure of a job description to kind of manage the amount of time and as well as select the right person that's going to be a fit.
So let me see. So I can't find where it went. So what I would say to that is I also think that's sort of dependent on the organization too. I think, you know, someone might be able to say intern and they have a small business and the intern kind of just works directly with one-on-one person and is helping them with their role and their day-to-day tasks. But I think absolutely one thing that I'm asking for when I'm going to talk to you all about the internship fair is to have a description of what is the business and what you are looking for. And I think from there, we can sort of map that sort of thing out. And then what I would hope is that the intern and the supervisor would work together to then build a job description based on that student, their skills, their interests, and the need of the business. So it's hard because you want to have that job description now, but I think depending on the student, it may shift it a bit. And if there's something super specific you are looking for, then definitely let us know because we may not have the right student for that. So my goal would be for the student and the supervisor to work together or to have a specific job description that you are looking, or internship description that you're looking to fill. So I know that's not a super specific answer, but I think it's just a little bit flexible and depending on the student and the place of work.
Yeah, I'd say a future goal for us in the next 2 to 5 years is to almost have an internship database where seniors are able to look and see what the past internships have been, what the jobs have actually entailed, so that we get to know more about you as businesses, and that we have, you know, anywhere from 5 to 10 standing internships where every year we know that the Chamber of Commerce is going to be looking for an intern, and we know that roughly this is what they're going to be asking for, so that even as sophomores and juniors, we can start to gear students up to be prepared for that role. So that's definitely a future goal that we have as a department.
Yeah, like for example, in my previous work, I had an intern every spring who worked at the Rape Crisis Center, and they would help run every year. We knew that intern was going to run there was a big walk that they did. So if we can establish those internships that we can use again and again, then those jobs descriptions will sort of be there. But in the beginning stages of it, especially for, you know, places that may just need one right now and maybe won't need one next year, I think it will be a little bit more flexible.
And I will say that this past program has grown exponentially faster than any of us have anticipated. So, you know, we're really almost playing catch up on the student interest and need. So when I took over the program in 2016, I think I had 7 or 8 students who wanted to be a part of this program. And last year we had 80. So in just 5 years, we've every single year we're growing the program. So it would be a great goal to have as many seniors as possible. We have 120, I think. We average between 110 and 120 in a senior class. So that's a good 2/3, 3/4 of our senior class that are now wanting to be a part of this program. So we're adjusting, we're making transitions to make it fit the needs of what we need to accomplish in the building, what we need in the community. But I think we've lagged a little behind on the internship component of it because we focused so early in the beginning on college courses. So this is a major area of growth that we're looking to establish.
All right, so I had said that we had a lot of interest. So I listed many of them here based on a survey from last year. So, you know, anywhere from psychology to engineering, I've already sort of set up one of our students with a speech pathology internship, social work, sports management. So there's a ton of different areas of interest that our students are interested in. Just wanted to branch that out for you, just for you to see a little bit. And then some examples of some past interns. This is by no means a list that includes all of them, but we had an assistant teacher at the high school one year. We've had some support staff for Amesbury Community Television. I had a program assistant at Nagley in Newburyport. We've had some shadowing and administrative help at Anna Jakes. And last year we had a social media sort of pilot program where I think we partnered with the chamber, and we got a bunch of organizations that wanted to have some social media interns. So, Trendsetters, Billy's, they all partnered up with a student and had a student run their social media pages, and we saw really great success there. So one thing I just want to highlight is just, because you're in a business, maybe you run a chiropractic organization. You don't have to have an intern that's interested in being a chiropractor. You could have an intern that's interested in accounting, small business accounting. You could have intern social media. So I challenge you to sort of think of your needs more broadly, as opposed to just your mission and all the other pieces that are within your organization that you think would benefit from an intern.
Yeah, it was a fun experiment last year where it was actually Judy Doyer, who's a realtor with Stonebridge.
Yeah.
She didn't use the intern, but she was willing to fund a stipend. And I think that Trendsetters, Billy's, Dynamic Balance, and Stonebridge, and it was Liz Buccio, I believe, that used the program just to try to create a little bit more of an opportunity for them to learn from the students. So it was like they created an internship for these 4 students.
Yeah.
But they walked away with additional skills too. So I know that the businesses had fun doing it. It was a little bit more. That's why I asked about like the training, because I think for all 4 of them, one's a realtor, so they have an office, but they're independent contractors essentially. Well, the other 3 businesses are, small businesses. They're small shops essentially, or offices downtown.
Yeah.
And they didn't know how to. They were willing to learn, but they just didn't. I think there was a lot of intimidation of like, how do you manage this? Because they wanted to make it fulfilling. Billy kind of cheated because she's got that whole, 30 years as a former educator, so she like had that down like pat. But it was pretty cool, and I think that the students got value out of it, but they got value too. So that's why there's a lot of, I think, interest, because I think a lot of businesses do recognize that value and the quality that you guys have at Amesbury High School as far as your students go.
Great, thanks. So one thing I wanted to make you aware of, and I have something that you can take a screenshot of too as well, is we're having an internship fair this fall on November 17th at the high school from 9 to 10:30. And all our past students will be there. So this is an opportunity for you to meet with students one-on-one, to talk about what internship opportunities may be available within your organization. Really just a chance to sort of chat with students. If after that you want to interview the student, that's absolutely fine, and something that we can set up for sure. But it's really just a way to sort of broadcast what you may be looking for, and it's a way for students to sort of see the opportunities that are available to them. I will say we're also partnering with Innovation for this, because the Innovation High School, all of their students are required to do an internship as well as part of their high school experience. So we thought we'd branch together and kind of make this an opportunity for all of Amesbury. So how it will work is our senior path students will come at first, and then after they're done, we're going to have the Innovation High School come in too. So you'll have an opportunity to meet with some diverse groups of students, which I think will be really great for our students to each have that opportunity.
Carrie, is this a prerequisite? Like, do you have to participate in the fair in order to access the internship program?
Yes. So this year for all senior pass students, they do need to attend this. So
But do like our businesses, like I'm thinking like the examples that you showed earlier of those folks who used you last time, like I can imagine that at least some of those types of businesses would never be able to pull away.
oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like, do they have to participate at like a booth in order? Okay.
Nope. So I think I have that. So and when I talk about next steps, I tell you, I'm going to break down who you should contact for what, because I know there's lots of people that can go or can't go or want to be a part of it, but can't do it this year. So I'll make sure that you all know who you should be chatting with about your unique situation. So you absolutely is not, if you want an intern, you do not have to come. We would love to have lots of people there, but we totally understand, especially being owning a small business or working in a small business, to step away is a lot. So this is a flyer that PACT came up with. We're partnering with PACT for this, just because it's obviously a lot of moving pieces. So while I run, I'm the work study coordinator, I run all the internships. We're partnering with PACT to sort of be the administrative piece for helping us run this, and gathering some of the information from you guys. So if you want to take a picture of this or whatever works best for you, this is a little flyer. We can send it out in an email as well, just the time and date. And then in order to RSVP, you would just email pact@amesburyma.org. And again, if in this email, you could just say your name, your business, contact, and then maybe like a 1-sentence description about your organization. And then if you have no idea what kind of intern you want, that's fine. But if you think of a need to write that down would be great. And knowing that you might run into a student at this internship fair that you love, and you're like, oh, I just want to find a place for this student. So it's really just an opportunity to open up those doors.
Terry, do you mind if you send me that flyer? We'll email that out and post it up on social media as well, or share it at least from
Yep.
PACT social media account.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify for people that don't know, PACT is the partnership of Amesbury and Amesbury Community and Teens. So it's a local coalition group of adults and youth coming together to bridge the gaps and do all the things we talked about in terms of bigger goal setting. So it's we have business owners, we have health professionals, we have some of our social service agencies, and a group of youth from the high school and innovation school that meet monthly to talk about some of the larger needs of our youth community and how we can best utilize the adults to create a strong working relationship.
So if you're interested in the internship fair, you would email PACT. I put that right there for you. If you can't attend the fair, but you are interested in an intern, feel free to email me and I can try to look at the list of students that are interested in an internship and sort of connect you directly to that student. And if you are really like, you know what, I don't think this is something I can do for this year, but put me on a list for possible future interns or something like that, then you can email me as well and just let me know that specific situation. And I'm happy to just track your information so that I know in the future to reach out to you.
One more thing you could email to the PACT email address if you're interested. Again, we're looking at just creating a large database of who our community members are that may be interested in having some level of involvement with our youth. So if this is not for you, but maybe you'd come guest speak in a class, or maybe you'd attend an event in the future and just want to be part of that database that when things like this happen, we reach out to, that would be another thing you could email PACT about to say, I'm interested in being part of this database. Just keep me on your email lists and flyers. So as opportunities to collaborate with the youth come up, I'll be aware of the opportunities.
So can I ask just 2 questions quickly? You had mentioned interns being remote. If they're going to be involved in the product company, you can't make a product remotely. Can they be on site?
Oh, absolutely. We would rather them be in the field working directly with adults, but we know that in some industries, they may have, 1 or 2 things, and then they want the student to be doing things independently. So I think we would probably prefer it to be in person, but we do know that the way of work right now is lots of things are remote. So that's absolutely an option too, but definitely in person.
Okay. There's no Corey requirements or stuff like that, is there?
So at this time, we're not doing Corey's for the internship placements. We haven't done that in the past. So
that's enough information. Thank you. Are there things that interns can't do? Safety standard stuff, but are there, don't go near doing these things?
I found some of that depends upon the place or the industry. So for example, we were looking at placing an intern. We had an intern a few years ago with ARC Technologies, and because of the nature of their work, they had to be 18 to do certain things out on the field. So if it's something that you have a question about, send us an email and ask, and we can certainly clarify, but we've found more restrictions on the business side than we have on our side historically. So hospital confidentiality, that sort of thing. So if it's a question, email us. But again, it's more clearing it through your organization is what we've found so far.
Okay, thank you.
I do believe there are some mass labor laws for students about, and I don't know them off the top of my head, about the time of day that they can work up until evenings and whatnot. So I would defer to Carrie on that, but I think there's a cutoff time in the evening by which people under a certain age are supposed to work. You know, that's vague, but I have some.
There's no all-nighter options, huh?
Right, no 2 a.m.s. They are still coming to school in the morning.
Any question?
I have a question, if I may. My name's Dave Solms. I have a consulting business of my own. Hi, Bob, by the way. I had an office at CIW for a number of years. I work in the electronics industry. I'm a marketing guy, but everyone I work with is in an engineering group somewhere around the world. For the last 23 years, I've been the general chair of a workshop, an advanced technology workshop that we've held in Silicon Valley. I moved it to the Microsoft corporate campus in 2019. We have that coming up again in a couple of weeks, again in Redmond at the Microsoft Center. And I am working on organizing a second workshop that would be held in Albany, New York next June, targeting power electronics, energy storage, infrastructure, grid challenges, revolving largely around electrification of vehicles of all kinds. The challenge I face is I work by myself, and I have literally thousands of contacts of engineers around the world in different companies. And what I'm thinking is that this may be viewed as drudgery, perhaps by a student, but I tend to send out individual emails soliciting for presentations from an engineer, let's say at Lockheed Martin on a particular topic. And that kind of organization of those emails, the lists of contacts that I have, working through a lot of those lists to organize the solicitation process is very time consuming. And it would be viewed, I think, as tedious. What I picture here, though, is that for a student in an internship, this could be a window for a student who's primarily interested either in mechanical electric engineering or electrical engineering. This could be a window into what's going on in the world in terms of design and development, computing systems, vehicle electrification, battery energy storage, lots of different topics within electronics. Mm-hmm. Does that sound like it would be a potential opportunity?
So I would want to look at the list of students. I think it could be. What I would say is I would think that possibly how I could see it working is that could be a task that they work on consistently while also working with you and maybe doing some other things as well. I wouldn't want them to fully be doing that. I think that might be, it's part of the tedious work, but I think we could work together to find something that they could be doing a little bit of both while learning from you about the industry. I think it definitely could be an option.
My thinking here is that for a student who is seriously interested in, as I mentioned, either mechanical engineering or electrical engineering, or even material science as a college career and then ultimate work path, this would be a window on everything that's going on from military to aerospace to commercial to consumer. Even, for example, the fact that if you're using an Apple smartwatch, you may be subject to burns if the battery overheats, malfunctions, and overheats. Those are some of the topics involved.
Yeah, and I'm happy to have individual conversation with you too about how we can make it work for you, because it sounds like there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I think the right student could really find that interesting. So I think
okay, thank you.
For sure.
I think I've also seen a couple students, probably 2 or 3 now in our past program, whose internships have extended into something more for them and or opened another door for them. I think that's kind of what you're saying too, Dave. And so if through working with you, they're able to build a network as they go into college and that turns into a more hands-on internship for them, that's great. So I think when you're submitting to us to say what you're looking for, those are great bullets to add, that there's the potential for this to, you know, like I'm thinking of an internship last year in one of our city departments that actually had the potential to turn into a full-time job for a student, which it did. That's wonderful. They were looking to go right from high school to career. It worked. It was great. If you know, this is something where, you know, I'm connected in the engineering industry, and if that's a major you're interested in, you will be connected with people in the field who may be great resources as you move into more practical phases of your collegiate study.
Yeah, I see that same connection also. When Ken Gray was mayor, he had tried to start an innovation lecture series. And the first one was a young woman from Ford Motor Company. And she gave a presentation in the space that is now in Dan Healy's building on Water Street, that is now Sylvaticus, the brew pub. Behind her was one of the Bailey electric vehicles, which I got a chuckle out of. And there were a couple of Ford electric vehicles that were brought for that presentation also. I've often thought that was a great start. Unfortunately, nothing ever came of it as a program. And you mentioned presentations in a class. That's also something I've always been interested in, because we desperately need to amp up the number of engineering graduates in this country. We are in a serious position in terms of lack of engineers across the country. And not enough students.
I'd love to reach out to you offline. We've
Yep.
started to trickle our engineering program all the way down to our freshmen. So we're now offering an exploring engineering elective for students, because what we're finding is students don't even know what engineering is.
Right.
So that's something that I'd love to chat with you about and see if we can get you connected with our teacher.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of other folks like Dave with questions and wanting to dive deeper into their field. So all the more
I can't hear you, Phil. Can you speak up, please?
Yeah, so I was just saying, I'm sure there are many people who'll be watching this like you that want to dive deeper into conversations about their field. And so it's okay, right, for them to reach out to Carrie and or Danielle, or I guess I should say, make even that assumption. I should say instead that, you know, we'll be pushing out that flyer, or perhaps an edited version of that flyer, depending what you send, Carrie, out to everyone, so that, you know, you can ask these type of questions, and who knows what can come from there.
I just dropped my email in the chat for anyone that's interested in reaching out to me directly.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you. I know that, you know, we wanted to try to keep this, you know, pretty succinct. I know that this is the middle of your day and you've got students you've got to tackle, and apparently sick kids at home that you've got to be able to go and pick up or do what wearing many hats, right? Wearing many hats. But I want to say thank you just on behalf of the chamber, because we have so many people here who have asked these questions, and you know, they don't know where to start. And, you know, I think that this is just another great way to connect local students with local entrepreneurs, and hopefully build longer relationships than just simply a spring semester.
Great. Thank you.
Carrie, thank you. Danielle Ritchie, principal from Amesbury High School, thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you. And if you have any questions, or for whatever reason there were certain parts that broke up during this recording, and you'd like to contact somebody on this call, you can always reach out to me, Phil@amesburychamber.com, and I have no problem making those connections too. Otherwise, enjoy your day.
Your teens are not scary.
I like that. Teens are not scary. The motto of Amesbury High School.